Before I begin this video, I just want to say I hope everyone stays safe, right? Hurricane Milton is about to land onto Florida, and it has elevated into a Category 5, which is really dangerous. This all happened, it was supposed to be a relatively small one, but then it elevated quickly over the past few hours and days. So just stay safe, right? Bunker down or try to get out of the area as soon as possible. This is no laughing matter. This is not like something you can just brush off. This is going to be scary. And I do hope I do wish you the best. But I guess recently there's been all this news about just past week. There's been like multiple hurricanes. There's been where I live. There's just been like crazy heat waves, right? And it's really hard. You can't deny that climate change is a thing. I don't care where it came from, right? But climate change is obviously a thing. You set record highs, temperatures every single year. You have like random crazy like rain or snow in New York, or you have cold weather in Texas, or crazy heat in Texas or Arizona. You can't deny that climate change is happening. And throughout this entire like channel, I've always been I don't want to say shilling, but I have been basically talking about the ticker symbol SPIR, Spire Global. And I just want to say that like even like specifically with their legal, I guess, drama that's happening right now, maybe it might be a little bit dangerous to invest in Spire Global. Maybe after this legal drama is dropped, or also just like looking at different companies that are working in the same exact environment as Spire Global, right? The reason why I found Spire Global so promising is because of how much data they're sitting on and kind of all the different technologies they're working on. They're working on all these different things that I see to be I guess increasing in demand. We talk about weather patterns, obviously, right? Looking at weather, predicting weather, and aside from weather patterns, right? They're also working on maritime, right? Looking at ships, which will also help businesses kind of deal with maybe like ships being too slow, ships being too fast, right? Being able to get their shipments on time. You have aviation, right? That's also really important. Air traffic, which was exemplified through the Thales, not partnership, contract. Also the rise in, I guess, global security problems, right? You have multiple international conflicts within the Middle East, within like China, Taiwan, right? You have all these different conflicts that are occurring, and I can see how Spire Global is sitting in a position to really benefit the most. Obviously, right now with the current legal, like I guess, problems, or like the accounting problems, it might be a little bit more dangerous. So definitely do all your research, right? Do your due diligence. This is definitely a high conviction play for me, but I just feel that they're sitting on, I guess, data that is very useful for all these things, especially for training on AI. And now that they're in the AI game, that like they only have room to grow. So why I wanted to talk about this was mainly it was because of just how important I feel that their data is in predicting weather. For example, if we could, like, if the data they're sitting on, they're able to kind of predict within like hours or within like minutes the trajectory or the strength of the hurricane, and I guess how fast it's growing or how fast it's shrinking, that will really help deal with safety concerns for multiple populations. Aside from that, you also see insurance companies like Geico, Progressive, they're kind of backing out of Florida, or they're backing out of California because of unseen weather conditions, right? All the forest fires and all the wildfires in California. Now you have the hurricanes and the tornadoes and the earthquakes and all these things, right? If in the same way that insurance companies have to look at risk and reward, right? They have to look at what are the chances of this happening versus the chances of it not happening. And the fact that they completely pulled out kind of shows you how uncertain they are with the current environmental scene. I think that with Spire Global's data, then basically that means that these insurance companies would rather not risk it and just lose the entire market because they don't want to bear the risk. But wouldn't it be much better? Wouldn't they earn a lot more money if they were to enter the market again? So using Spire's data, if they have a really good AI model, that would really allow these insurance companies, Geico, Progressive, all the farmers, right? They would allow these companies to go back into the Florida market, go back into the California market for housing, for whatever, right? Whatever type of insurance. So I think that like that's one use case that I actually never really thought of, just how useful that the weather forecasting is for these insurance companies. I just recently saw this interview, which I found really interesting that Spire did apparently yesterday, or it was uploaded yesterday. There's only 30 views on it, so I thought I'd share. And he talks about how actually not necessarily that governments are using Spire Global's data, but how traders are using Spire Global's data, and more specifically like commodities traders, energy traders, and I found it really, really interesting. I never realized this group of customers that Spire Global has, just straight up commodity traders and energy traders. So like imagine how important speed is, and Spire Global being one of the first people to use AI, I guess Spire Global focusing on using AI with their weather forecasting, they can easily predict I guess energy fluctuations and volatility for those people to capitalize and for those traders to use in order to make profits, right? At first I was just going to do this video on just kind of predicting weather and how important that is, and how much of a demand there should be for Spire Global's data and also their AI models. But I never saw it in this light, and I thought I'd share. So in this first part that I'm going to show you, it's him talking about how, I guess, the amount of processing power that you need in order to do what Spire Global is doing, or in order to kind of produce at the rate that Spire Global is producing at. So here we go.
You need to be a substantially sized company with good funding and kind of, a good customer base who can kind of fund some of these initial developments. Our individual high resolution domains over the CONUS in the United States on roughly 4,000 processors each for roughly 2 hours to generate those forecasts. So we're using, what you might call up to 50 nodes, individual nodes, and then the data amount is large. So dealing with these different data pipelines and efficiently getting them to customers fast, which is also critical. Because most of our client base is in the energy and commodity trading markets, speed is incredibly important.
Now here he talks about how kind of crazy demanding it is in order to get these, in order to run these AI models and all these things. I think that this is one of the biggest moats that Spire has, which is this partnership with NVIDIA. You don't have access to the almost basically like infinite compute power that Spire Global has by working with NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA, they have basically unlimited compute power, right? So one of the ways that these traders will work with Spire Global is that they will actually look at, basically they'll use Spire Global's weather forecasting in order to see when clouds will be above certain solar farms, or above or when wind patterns or something like that might change. And these traders that are trading energy commodities, I don't know what it is. I've never traded energy commodities in my life. But apparently, for example, if you're trading wind energy or solar energy or regular energy, right, you can see certain spikes in volatility throughout the day, right? So then that's how they'll be able to, if you have a faster and more reliable system, then you'll be more it'll be much easier for you to basically beat your competition and be faster than the market and beat the market, right? So Spire, they're literally using Spire Global as their alpha. The data that Spire Global is sitting on and the models that Spire Global produces, that is their alpha. Now you might be wondering, okay, well, even later in the video, he talks about how I think it was at 21 minutes, but he talks about how companies like Citadel, right, they actually have their own proprietary model, and they'll often use ANOVA's model, which is the it's the, I forgot what it stands for specifically, but it has to do with weather forecasting. It has to do with they're the ones that can really categorize and forecast hurricanes and things like that as well, right? You'll hear NOAA, so NOAA, which is NOAA, right? You'll hear that tossed around pretty often when we're talking about Hurricane Milton. Well, what they did was actually more physical models, which actually take a lot longer and are actually less accurate than what Spire Global is working on right now. By using AI, it makes really accurate predictions in a fraction of the time, which is really, really cool, and something, again, which is another moat that Spire Global is sitting on, because they have this access to NVIDIA's compute power. Think about how fast Hurricane Milton switched from Category 1 or to Category 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Think about how fast that increase was. And if you don't have basically constant global monitoring, right, you can't see this stuff, right? You can't compute what's going to happen quick enough because of how slow these physical models are.
And a lot of people are kind of having an existential crisis. We've built all our infrastructure around these physical models. We invest billions of dollars into improving them. And now AI has come along, and there's small startups, individual companies, individual groups, like what we're doing with Inspire, which I'll talk about, that are coming along. And in some cases, they're beating the performance of these massive physical models that we've spent decades and everything. So they have to change their entire way of thinking. It's making significant inroads, all the way up to the funding of NOAA about how do we assure that we become or maintain our leadership in weather prediction when we're not as nimble as a lot of these kind of technical tech companies and small startups, where they can quickly, add and create these weather models and prove their benefits. So it's a very interesting time all around. So running inference on these AI models is pennies compared to thousands of dollars for the physical models. The speed. They produce a 10-day forecast in roughly 10 to 20 seconds, whereas it takes our current physical models hours on thousands of processor cores to produce a similar forecast. So those are really the huge advantages. It's speed and cost. And additionally, it's the time to development. You can develop, they are very expensive to train. The GPUs are in extremely high demand. So you're talking $100,000 to $1 million to train these models. But once they're trained, they're extremely easy to cheap.
See, so technology is really like shifting the thing. And I think that, as I said before, you see that AI is really changing the performance and kind of the way that the entire industry has to work with weather predicting. And Spire Global sitting on basically the forefront of that really does show you how, I guess, great of a position that Spire is in, just with all the resources they have at hand. They have the AI, right? But not only do they have the AI, they're big enough to be able to kind of create this contract with NVIDIA and get that compute power so that they can train their AI, right? Inference, he says, inference is really cheap. Training the model is what's expensive. But once you have that trained model, then you no longer have to keep, you basically just put in your data into a formula, which is your AI model, and your AI model spits something out, right? And that's really cheap compared to what's currently happening. It's also faster. It's also could be more reliable, right? You can use constant data. You can have current data right now. You can use the data that you have instantly, right? Because Spire Global has this global network of nano satellites that are looking at the entire Earth, right? They have this global network of global constellation of just satellites currently monitoring the Earth, and then they're able to instantly put that into a satellite, and then they're instantly able to predict a 6-hour forecast, a 6-day forecast, right? A 16-day forecast, right? They're able to do that with this new AI model that a lot of these legacy players don't really have access to because they're kind of sitting on this legacy architecture. Now I could keep going on. I can keep going on to just all the different things that he talks about, but this is a 44 minute video, 44 minute interview, and if I kept talking about it, this video would go on forever. It's already 19 minutes. So yeah, it's already 19 minutes. So I just wanted to say, I just wanted to kind of bring that up there. And this video really was spurred at first just by looking at how quickly Hurricane Milton really advanced in the categorization of it. And also just, it was so hot in California. I know this is I'm comparing I know I'm being a pansy, right? Especially when compared to Hurricane Milton and how dangerous it's projected to be. But it was California should not be this hot. It was a heat wave. It was supposed to end last Thursday, and then it got extended for some reason for an extra 4 days. See, if you had accurate data, and if you had an accurate model trained on accurate data, trained on current data, right, it'd be much easier and much more reliable data, in my opinion. I think that the results and the predictions would be much quicker, much cheaper, and much more reliable. And I think that Spire Global is kind of sitting on that forefront and really, I don't know if they're pioneering it, but they're definitely there. And I think this really just makes me more optimistic about Spire Global's outlook. Again, the legal drama and all that stuff. I talked about this before, right? So apparently the last day to file is October 21st. So I'm looking at what happens after October 21st to see whether or not those cases are dropped. What happens after those cases? What are the results of those cases? As of right now, it's still a pretty high conviction play for me. And if you're not willing to take the risk, by all means do not take the risk, right? Maybe this is just me being stupid, but I think that I guess just with the position that Spire Global is in, and the current environment of both, as I said before, right, the global security, weather patterns, right, climate change, right, all these things. And now I didn't even know about the trading, right? I didn't even know about the trading, the commodities trading, right? That's crazy. I did not know about that. But weather forecasting alone, what, like, I never thought to just look at the weather forecasting alone to see what industries that would help. But like, the applications are so widespread. Think about it, right? So he talks about commodities trading, which I had no idea that was even a thing, right? Trading like energy, trading like solar energy, wind energy, right? Regular energy, geothermal energy, right? All those things. If you have the fastest, if you have access to the fastest, most accurate data, then you have your alpha, right? He talks about businesses, right? For example, if you know that, let's say, if you can predict, let's say, it's going to be rain this time of day, or it's going to be sunny this time of day, right? You can alter what you're planning to sell. You can alter what you're planning to do, what parts of your solar grid to activate in order to optimize your top line and optimize your bottom line at the same time, right? You can also, looking at insurance companies, right, where they are completely like dropping markets because of how risky it is. But if you have accurate forecasting and you have reliable forecasting, then you no longer have to drop those markets. You can now more accurately gauge the risk reward, right? And then you can set your rate at which you're charging your insurance in order to match that risk, right? You see, like, for example, I didn't think about this, but like in California, insurance companies are dropping houses because of wildfire risks, right? Now you see Farmers, you see Progressive, you see Geico dropping insurance in Florida. And then the most obvious thing, right? Governments can really more accurately predict hurricane patterns, right? And like whether or not it's going to become a big one, a small one, where it's going to land, where it's going to hit. Governments will be more capable of predicting these disasters much earlier and much more accurate than they were without the use of AI, without the use of the data that Spire Global has. One thing to note also, he talks about how there's one example, I forgot when, I think it was in like towards the very end, but he talks about how like there's actually like certain weather patterns that happen in Asia that can affect the weather in Europe, right? And using physical models and using like, it's much more expensive. You can't, there's no feasible way of just testing everything, all the weather patterns all at once for every single location in the globe, right? But using AI, using inference, and using that ton of data, that ton of proprietary data that Spire Global is sitting on, they'll be able to predict, they'll be able to see those patterns. And then it's the butterfly effect, right? They see a butterfly flapping its wings in like Malaysia can create like a tsunami in America, right? Before you weren't able to do that. But if you have literally all the data in the world and you have an AI that can quickly, you can throw into an AI model that can quickly predict and quickly use that data and then predict accurately what's going to happen, where it's going to land, how big it's going to be, then that would be super useful for all the businesses, like for all, basically every business in the world, right? It could come down to like whether or not you want shipping to occur on a certain time, right? Whether or not you want to risk giving insurance to a certain like county in like Florida, right? Like I never noticed the applications of these things, and it's freaking mind blowing. So I guess those are just my thoughts on just Spire Global. Like I just saw this interview today. See, there's legit, I guess, 31 views now that I watched it. But like this was posted 18 hours ago, and I don't know why Spire Global didn't, like, they should have put this on like their Twitter or their LinkedIn or something, right? But they didn't. But like this is mind blowing, and I think it's really crazy how many applications there are for just the weather and forecasting. I thought it was just like, well, tomorrow's gonna be sunny. I never thought about all this stuff. So I hope you find this enlightening. Yeah, again, I am bullish on Spire Global despite what's happening. I do wish there was a little bit more transparency, but again, you probably can't be that transparent with these types of things where they're just completely changing the books, right? Obviously, like, they told you why they're changing it, so they're being transparent about that, but like it is still really scary for any investors holding it right now. So I think, again, wait for the 21st, see what happens. Again, I do see that gap between like $8.94 to $9. It's only a 6-cent gap, and it's pretty small. It's only on the hourly or 2-hour charts and below, but it's still a gap. So I'm just waiting for that. It might not be filled ever, but then I'm just scared of gaps from now on. So I'm just gonna see it there and just gonna wait. But yeah, just holding it. I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to say. That's it. Have a good one.